back. This is the Freedom Corner podcast with the Mississippi Freedom Caucus. I am Stephen Trosky. Got here in the studio with me today is the chairman of the Mississippi Freedom Caucus, Representative Dana Criswell. Dana, always a pleasure to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks. Been a little bit since I've been here. So
yeah.
Good to be back.
Yep. So a lot going on right now in the Mississippi legislature. I'll just anybody that's watching, I'll catch you up to speed of what's going on. So we have gone through where bills were introduced in the House, bills were introduced in the Senate. They've swapped over. So House bills are in the Senate, Senate bills are in the House. We just this week went through where we got to committee deadline in the chambers, looking at bills from the other chamber. So all the bills now that are Senate bills that are still alive in the House have made it out of committee, are now on the calendar. So you guys will start looking at those. And same thing in the Senate. All the House bills that are still alive have made it out of committee. They had to make it past that committee deadline this week. And so the Senate and the House are starting to take up floor votes for the other chambers' bills and starting to go through one of those. Certainly one of the most talked about bills, I think, right now is the Medicaid expansion bill.
Yeah, that's, there's been a lot of discussion with that. I mean, I guess our governor came out this weekend. Pretty much Republicans had decided we were killing all Medicaid expansion.
Yeah. And
the Democrats have been mad about it all session. And Republicans have stood our ground pretty well, saying that we're not going to do it. We're not going to pass it. It's not going to solve any problems for any group of people. It's not going to solve problems for hospitals or anybody like that. Well, our governor then comes out this weekend and really blindsides everybody.
Yeah.
And says, oh, by the way, I know I ran against this, but now then I'm for parts of it. So there you go. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And really catches, I know on the House side, and I even believe our House leadership was caught off guard by that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Now we have to figure out.
Yeah, and the Senate's been passed. It's basically every year since Delbert Hoseman's been in as lieutenant governor. They have passed some sort of Medicaid expansion bill every year. Partial expansion bills. The House has always stood up and killed it. The House Republicans and Speaker Gunn have always said they would kill it. And Tate Reeves has always said that he would, kill any Medicaid expansion that came across. He ran in 2019 on that platform. He was the only Republican in the primary in 19 that said he was against Medicaid expansion. So he was elected by the people of Mississippi on the platform that he was against Medicaid expansion. And then, like I said, on Sunday, he came out and sent a letter out basically saying, I'm now supporting this partial expansion.
Yeah, well, Delbert has from day one, if there is a Democrat liberal bill, Delbert's been for it.
Yeah.
And he's been for expanding welfare, expanding Obamacare to anybody that he can. So this little portion that they are wanting to expand now is to expand health care for pregnant women from the normal amount of time that's been 6 weeks or something like that.
60 days.
60 days. Now then it goes to a year.
Yeah.
And they're telling us that if you care at all about women and children, you have to do this. We're also hearing that since you're forcing all of these children to be born because we're against abortion, you must then expand Medicaid to solve this problem that somehow conservatives have created.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the narrative that the Democrats and Delbert has pushed out there that we've resisted all along. And even expanding this little bit, it's not helpful. I've looked at this and from several different ways, and you look at all Medicaid expansion or just one little part. If you expand this one little part, then you can't say that you can't expand it for the next little section of people. So you got to look at it as all of Medicaid expansion.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. I don't know of a single legislator who has ever had a phone call from somebody on Medicaid that has said, this is wonderful insurance. Thank you so much for this Medicaid insurance. Every call you get is, this is horrible. This doesn't cover, my doctor doesn't take it. It doesn't pay the bills.
Right.
So it's horrible insurance. So now then we're saying in order to care somehow, you have to put mothers and children on bad insurance. Well, I just don't understand that.
Yeah.
So why would you decide you care about mothers and children, so let's force them on horrible insurance that is bad and doesn't cover the things that they need to cover? It just doesn't make sense.
Yep. So a couple of things. One, so Medicaid is a terrible insurance program, but because of Biden and basically expanding Obamacare system, someone that would meet the qualifications for the salary requirement for Medicaid can now actually get a silver plan at no cost to them through the exchange. So they can actually get private insurance through the exchange at no cost to them if they're within basically the same range that you would be for Medicaid. So that even less makes sense that we would expand this now. Currently, because of the executive order, the emergency order through COVID, women can already get for indefinitely until the mandate's over. They can get this same Medicaid expansion, so that they can already get it now. But the emergency order is about to end, so they can only keep the Medicaid expansion that they already have. They can only keep that until they're basically rolled off of it. Well, from what I'm hearing, that's 12 to 14 months from basically now. So even if the Mississippi legislature doesn't pass it at all, if it dies this year, they still have 12 to 14 months before the women who are eligible for it already will roll off and lose that coverage. So there's just absolutely no reason to even be considering it now. And I think because Medicaid is by far the most abused and frivolous spending government program there is, before Mississippi ever even considers expanding Medicaid, we should do a complete and full audit of Medicaid. And I haven't heard anybody say that. Nobody said that. Nobody's asked about that. Nobody said, hey, are our Medicaid dollars in Mississippi going to other states that provide abortions? Well, because people can actually use Medicaid money to go to other states and get abortions. All they have to do is kind of, finagle things. The Hyde Amendment, the federal Hyde Amendment said that money cannot go to, federal dollars can't go to fund abortions. But there's a lot of doctors in a lot of states that will basically just ask no questions and sign the paperwork they need to without checking whether they're actually. The Hyde Amendment has a very narrow allowance for rape, and I think incest maybe. So all you have to do is the doctor has to wink wink nod nod, say this was a rape, right? Oh yeah, and they'll sign it, and our money could be going to abortions.
Well, and if you go back to the interesting thing is there is no Republican in the House that has ever called for auditing anything. They don't care where the money goes once we sign the check. The interesting thing is Omeria Scott, who is a Democrat that I disagree with on so many things, but she stands up on nearly every bill like this and says, where's the money going? How do we know this money is going where it should be? How do we know it's not going to be stolen like the $90 million from the Human Services was? And she asked those questions. She is the one who's asking the tough questions about where this money is going to be spent that the Republicans refuse to ask and don't even want to look at. And she lambasted the Republicans, and rightfully so. There's so many things she's wrong, but there's so many times that I agree with her in that we need to know where this money is being spent. They're telling us now then $7 million to expand this little portion of Medicaid. But we all know, and we're even told, kind of secretly behind closed doors, oh, it's going to go up next year. Yeah. We know it's going to go up next year. $7 million this year is for now, and it's going to go up. Some other issues with Medicaid expansion is earlier this year, I was in a meeting with he was an administrator for one of the counties in the Delta, and they have a healthcare clinic in their county. He told us every year they have to write a $2 million check from the county in order to subsidize that healthcare clinic. So you ask him why, and he says because every patient there is on Medicaid. And Medicaid only pays 80% of what it costs to treat a patient. So you ask him, so is expanding Medicaid and putting more people that it only pays 80% of what it costs going to help you? And the answer is no. He knows that as soon as you do that, so now then we expand Medicaid to cover whatever group we want to pick. And we know it's just going to make it more expensive.
Yeah.
So now then, counties, the state, somebody's got to come in and bump up that they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So this idea that we're now then going to expand this Medicaid to this section or whatever section of our group of people that we want is going to help these rural hospitals, it's just a lie. And everybody that's promoting it, all the hospitals that are out promoting it, know it's a lie, because it's not going to help these rural hospitals or rural clinics. Who it's going to help are the big hospitals like DeSoto Baptist, like Methodist, like UMMC, because they have enough patients that are hardworking Mississippians who have insurance that they can now then raise the cost to own their insurance. On private insurance. So now then they can raise the cost on them to cover this. And so they know it's going to bring them more money because they have a big enough base of paying patients in order to raise it. So this expansion of Medicaid is never going to help the rural hospitals. It's never going to help healthcare in rural Mississippi. It's only going to help these big hospitals that are right here in Jackson or right there in DeSoto County or somewhere like that.
Yeah. So a couple things. One of the problems with Medicaid too is you get so much fraud in it because they don't verify many of the things that are on there. So they don't verify whether you actually meet the requirement on your salary income.
I don't think they can ask. From what I've been told is that if a pregnant woman walks in and says, I want this coverage, they are not allowed to ask about any means test. So the truth is we're going to expand this. And if whoever is the richest person in Mississippi, if their wife wants to walk in and say, I want that free coverage, then the people of Mississippi are going to pay for that. Because they can't.
I don't even know if they have to be a woman, because nowadays the federal government would probably tell them you can't ask them if they're a woman yet.
Well,
or not,
If the non-woman is having a baby, then I might be willing to pay for that one. Just to see that.
Yeah. So so that's one problem, is because there's so much fraud in Medicaid to begin with. The other thing is it doesn't work. The people who are on it get terrible health care because, like I said, doctors only making 80%. What they would with private healthcare, patients or people that are paying cash. So they're going to spend less time with those people, try to rush them out the door, get them in, get them out as fast as possible. And I've talked about this. So, I have my radio show that every morning I had Dr. Jameson Taylor on this week to talk about. He is probably by far the best expert, in Mississippi on Medicaid expansion. So I've leaned on him, heavily. But Medicaid is just a poor deal. It's going to be, so much fraud is going to be in it. We're going to get so many more people sign up to it than the experts say they're going to. And that's how it's happened in every other state that has passed any Medicaid expansion. And of course, they say that this is just postpartum, right? It's just postpartum. We got to help our mothers now that we're forcing them to have babies. We got to do it. But the reality is that there's so little verification on anything they do. We know that the amount of people that will sign up will, by far surpass this. And they're lying about it. They're just lying. The people who are pushing this know the issues with it. They know the data from the other states. They know that it won't work, and they're just lying to us. They're lying to the public. They're lying to legislators, and the legislators who are pushing are lying to everybody else.
Yeah, and it is. It is the large hospitals that are up here at the Capitol pushing this, and they're not pushing it because they care about a single person. They're pushing it because they care about the amount of money that they know they can make. We passed another bill, and a lot of people in our email list have emailed about this. So what we're doing here is we're going to expand Medicaid. We're going to put the rural hospitals in a worse position. But don't worry, because Senate Bill 2323 says that the state hospital at UMMC or any other big hospital, hey, guess what? We just passed a bill that said we're going to exempt you from any kind of antitrust laws, any kind of anti-competition laws. It says it in the bill. And now then, what we're going to do is we're going to drive these local and small hospitals deeper in debt, But we've passed a bill that says the big hospitals can go buy them.
But hey, we've got a savior bill for you.
We do.
We're going to put you out of business, but we're also passing a bill so that these big state hospitals can come in and save the day. They can come in and buy you out at a cheaper price because you're now even further in debt now. But they're going to come in and save the day. And what that's going to do is, you already talked about how these big state hospitals are already going to increase the cost for private insurers. For private patients that have private insurance or they're paying cash, the cost for them are going to go up. But the more of these little rural hospitals they gobble up, well, they've got to start increasing the cost even more for private people. So every time they buy a new rural hospital, the costs are just going to continue to go up. The more Medicaid patients they put on, the more in debt they're going to get, the more they have to drive the cost up for private insurance. Now, the rural hospitals can't really drive up the cost because they're already going out of business. They're already failing because they don't have enough private insurance patients.
It all comes down to having enough paying customers that you can spread that out over them. You can raise the cost of them so you have enough paying customers. So the people in Mississippi now, then the working people in Mississippi get to pay twice.
Yeah.
We get to write them a $7 million check this year, going to be more next year.
Like $40 million next year.
And we all get to pay higher insurance premiums. We all get to pay higher deductibles. So the people in Mississippi get to pay 2 or 3 times so that these hospitals can make money and the politicians can collect big checks into their campaign fund from the hospital association.
Oh, and hey, by the way, since we have certificate of need laws, if there's a doctor that decides, hey, I don't want to accept Medicaid anymore, I don't want to work for this big hospital anymore, I've got plenty of patients that would love to use their private insurance or private dollars, if they're going to pay cash, at my clinic that I'm going to set up, my ambulatory surgery center, I'm going to set that up. And so I don't have to raise the cost to treat all these Medicaid patients. I'll set up my own clinic, my own practice. I'll set it up over here, be right down the road from the big hospital, but my prices will be much cheaper because I don't have to take Medicaid patients, so I don't have to cover that loss. Oh, but wait, we have certificate of need laws, so the Board of Health will say, no, we don't need that. Those big hospitals are already covering those services. We're not going to give you a license to do that.
Yeah, I mean, people come to me and they say, well, you're against this, then you have to give me an answer. What do we do? Well, that's exactly what we do. Number one, we don't do the same thing we've been doing for years over and over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep doing the same thing over and over and over. We pile more money. We take more money from the citizens. We give more money to these big hospitals, and nothing ever changes. So we've got to do something different. Well, the thing that we've got to do different is actually what the Republican platform says, is that we believe competition will help healthcare.
Yeah.
And if we will get the state out of the way, if we'll start repealing some of these certificate of need laws, like nearly every other state in the nation has repealed most of their certificate of need laws. If we would start doing that, then rural healthcare will improve. We will get more doctors, more available healthcare to the rural areas. But what's not going to happen is money's not going to flow to the deep pockets already of the big hospitals and the big healthcare people and the lobbyists. And so I'm telling you, in Mississippi, until we have a major change in the people who are elected and making the decisions, healthcare is not getting better in Mississippi.
Yeah, well, I talked about this last week with Steve Hopkins when he was on the podcast. What we really need in Mississippi are platform Republicans. We need Republicans who actually believe in the platform. Because like you said, the platform says we believe in free markets, even within the healthcare system, because we know free markets will bring down costs and provide better services. And that's what the platform says. The platform also says we don't believe in expanding current government healthcare programs that don't work.
So when a Republican votes or puts their name on Senate Bill 2323, and the bill says that it's anti-free market, it says it in the bill that it's anti-free market, those are some of them that either don't know or don't believe in the Republican platform, and you need to go look those up, and you need to go find them, and you need to figure out how to vote against them.
Yeah, either they never read the platform or they're just openly hostile to it.
They need to go home.
Yeah, they do need to go home. That's what we need. I've started saying this. Everybody wants to call the Freedom Caucus members extreme or far right or this, that. Literally, you guys just believe in the platform. you believe in the Republican Party platform, and that's what sets you apart from most other members in the entire legislature, not just in the House, but in both chambers.
Well, when they have gone so far left, we do look extreme right, but it is the Republican Party platform that we believe in. I mean, and people have asked me over and over, why don't you go to move to the Libertarian Party or this party or that party? And the truth is, I believe in the Republican Party platform. It's a good platform that the people of Mississippi believe in. And that's why I stick with the Republican Party, because I'm not ready to give up the fight for Mississippi or for our party either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so that's exactly what Reagan said. Reagan was a Democrat. He said, they left me, I didn't leave them. It's the same thing with us now. The Republican Party is almost leaving us, not us leaving them. But we refuse to leave. We will continue to fight for Republicans in the Republican Party with our platform as our guiding document to say, hey, this is what we're supposed to believe, and we're going to hold you to it. If you don't, we'll expose you. Yeah, we just want you to be platform Republicans.
And that's why it's important for people to pay attention. It's why we do our newsletters. It's why we do our action items. It's why Steve Hopkins is staying in the fight and coming back in the Senate next year. Because we can't give up. We're going to keep fighting, and I mean, we're just too hard-headed to ever quit.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that ended for today. We're up on our time, so I appreciate you coming in. It is always a pleasure, and I'll end this podcast how I'll always end it. There's no one else I would rather have fighting in my corner. Dane, thanks for coming in again, and everybody watching, God bless.